You know, when I was a kid, I wrote poems. I mean, I could have been made fun of for that. I won the Betty Crocker Award in high school, Harris, where I actually won the homemaking prize at #1 in New York State.
That man somehow flips those statements into an anti-trans argument. But brace yourselves, because as is to be expected, the argument makes no sense and contradicts itself over and over again.
Is that too early for that conversation?
Absolutely. And Dr. Commissar is right, too, who wrote that amazing op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Of course. I remember 5th grade health class being nervous, Harris, going in there. I was nervous. What are they going to teach us? Not 9-year-olds. That's already 11-year-olds. That's people approaching puberty. You know, I think the term gender dysphoria, which is legitimate, has been so over-embellished and politicized that we've lost another term, gender fluidity.
He's lamenting over the lack of the use of the term gender fluidity, which is interesting considering his anti-trans stance.
You know, when I was a kid, I wrote poems. I mean, I could have been made fun of for that. I won the Betty Crocker Award in high school, Harris, where I actually won the homemaking prize at #1 in New York State. And my wife says to me, how could you have won that? You can't, you know, figure out what the right color drapes are. But in those days, I could. And those were considered feminine characteristics.
So you agree. Gender lines don't need to be rigid, and boys should be able to write poetry and do home ec just as much as any girl and not really be made fun of for it. Interesting. Interesting.
We need to embrace ourselves, accept the way we've been, the bodies we've been given, and start from there. And don't sexualize our children. Don't teach them at the age of 9.
That's the issue for parents of particularly young kids that I'm interviewing. It's that they're not ready to tell a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old the detail that it takes to explain gender identity. I mean, you got to go deep there. You're talking about sexual orientation and also having sex.
And then here's the matter. Absolutely agree.
Now, I don't have kids, but I have a working brain and an imagination, and I can imagine how that conversation would go. And here's my take on telling your child something about gender identity. You know, kid, I'm not naming this fake child of mine. If you feel like you're more of a boy than a girl, like you relate more to the boys in your class than the girls, you know, that's fine. You can just be a boy. Now, what, that was a little simplified, but what part of that conversation included talking about sex? Because I just recorded it, and I don't recall, you know, my memory's not the best, but it's not that bad, and I don't recall mentioning sex or anything sexual once. It's almost as if it's so much simpler than everyone on the right is making it out to be. Listen, if your kid is trans, whether you teach them about gender fluidity or transness at a young age or not, they're going to be trans either way. It's just a matter of time before they find out, and it's about whether or not they feel safe coming to you about it. That's it. Wouldn't you rather your child feel accepted by you for something so small and so inconsequential as gender fluidity or feeling like they're trans than to eventually break off contact with you because you weren't supportive? Anyways, don't take behavioral health advice from an internist. See you in the next video.